The Great Cuddle Buddy, Part 2. Beginnings were always special. I personally had not been in plenty of relationships and was relatively inexperienced compared to my resident cuddle buddy roommate and boyfriend, Theo. It had been months since we were stuck at home during a storm, and I finally confessed how I felt to him in a heat of the moment exchange. In an unexpected twist of fate, he felt the same. We had been inseparable since then. Cold and thrilling Netflix movies now turned into snuggly smooch fests. Take our cuddling when we were still only friends and roommates, and add passionate kissing to that. That was us right now. Theo had just bought these thin-framed round glasses, almost Harry Potter-esque, if you ask me, and had his nose buried as usual on some work by Lord Byron. I found the sight extremely hot. My man in a muscle tee showing off his biceps, wearing his new reading glasses, and reading some poetry. Hot, was it not? That was my buff geek right there, and he was mine. I then scooted closer. Suddenly, the new season of Brighton that I was initially watching was not as interesting anymore, and I instead was bent on distracting my boyfriend. I inched closer towards him until I was almost on his lap. "Whoa there, what's gotten into you?" he said inquisitively, as I desperately kissed his neck. I stopped my attack on his skin and looked at him, dead in his hazel eyes. "You don't like it?" "Baby, I love it," he replied. "Just surprised, that's all." Surprised? It's all we ever do these days, babe. It's not like we spend our time together Bible studying or something, I bantered. "Smooch all day? Sure, but neck kissing? That's new," he whispered, with his face only inches from mine. I could feel the heat of his breath on my face. I could also feel my own breathing turning quite hefty. Boldly, I perched myself on his lap, all the while looking into his eyes. I was pretty sure I was giving him fuck me eyes because he stared right back with just as much intensity. "Baby," he breathed as I continued the attack on his neck. I tossed his clothes aside, revealing his firm chest and toned abdomen. He was a fine piece of man. I was one lucky bastard. "Fuck, you're so hot," I replied. He leaned in for yet another kiss, attacking me with his tongue and toying my lips with his teeth. He was sucking at my lips as if his life depended on his, and I was kissing him back with just as much hunger and desperation. Prior to Theo, I had yet to experience anything of this intensity. Surely, I dated girls back in the day, but nothing could come close to how I was feeling with him. I could savor the feeling of our lips touching for a lifetime. That's how good it was. "I'm gonna lose control if we don't stop, darling," he whispered airily, while I sat on his lap. I did not reply, and instead shut him up with yet another kiss, and another and another. He brushed his lips against me, this time delicately and lingering. I felt his minty breath against mine, and I closed my eyes, just relishing the time I had with my man. "Baby, again, if you don't stop right now, I cannot guarantee that I will have the control to do so later," warned Theo yet again. I looked at him dead in the eyes and momentarily thanked the heavens that his man was mine. With much conviction, I told him, "I don't want you to stop." Since that fateful day, we had been at it like rabbits. We were like animals out in the Sahara, ravaging each other fiercely and with so much passion, day and night. Seeing that we both realized we were gay because of how we felt towards one another, it was our first time to have that kind of sex, and boy did it blow my mind. Before then, I never even knew that it could be that good. Theo was taking me to places I never could have dreamt of. We were both figuring this out together, and the possibilities are endless. We had so much to explore, and we were along for the ride. So much for the beginning of my sexual escapades with the love of my life. We were having a peaceful Sunday. I was finally teaching Theo some basics in the kitchen, while we blasted Planet, Her in our speakers, when my best friend Nicolette burst through the front door unannounced. "Hi Theo," she greeted. I had introduced them weeks ago and they hit it right off. Seeing that Theo worked in publishing house and Nicolette was an English professor in a nearby college, they both shared an instant bond over books. I rolled my eyes jokingly and greeted my old friend. "I'm here, Nix," I bantered. "Oh, hi stranger, long time no see. The way I introduced you two, and now she's more of your friend than she is mine," I joked to Theo. He laughed, but deep down I was touched that he was bonding so well with such an important person in my life. After months of dating, our friends were intertwining and we were getting to know each other's loved ones. It was an important milestone. "Look, Theo and stranger," continued Nicolette. "I need a babysitter tonight. Please, I beg you to. Please, please?" "Going on a date, aren't you?" I raised my eyebrow. Nix rolled her eyes and playfully hit my arm. "You won't deprive your childhood best friend the chance to find true love now that you've found yours, will you?" she begged. So that was how Theo and I ended up babysitting my nephew, Nick's 1-year-old son, Kyle, that night. I was whipping up a simple dinner for us. some herby chicken, breasts, and salad. Once Theo sat with Kyle in the living room. "Look, Kyle, it's Special Agent Oso," said Theo enthusiastically. I could not help but smile at the sight of him playing with the young boy. He looked so natural and in his element. Who could have known? Mr. Oh-so intimidating muscleman actually had a soft spot for kids. The mere sight tugged on my heartstrings. How was my man so versatile? He could be lifting weights one moment, and then reading the next moment. He could be writing some romantic poetry one moment, and then babysitting so effortlessly the next moment. "You're a natural, babe," I teased as I settled our respective plates and sat on the couch next to them. He pompously huffed his cheeks and winked. "Future baby daddy, am I not?" he teased right back. I flushed almost instantly. The thought of one day building a family with him was a picture that crossed my mind often these days. I suppose there comes a point when your relationship is stable, and despite being together for quite some time, you cannot see yourself getting tired of the other person anytime soon. That was me with Theo. "Don't play with fire, my love. You might find me agreeing to that idea," I poked, not backing out at its advances. "Go ahead and eat first, love. I know you're starving." I picked up Kyle from him and settled him on my lap while Theo got started on his dinner. "Delicious as usual, babe," he complimented. I smiled. Uncle Theo said Uncle Cole's food is delicious. "Do you agree, Kyle Boo?" I said, rubbing my nose against his small one. The baby yelped excitedly, his eyes as expressive as Nick's. He was one joyful baby, and the prospect of having one like him one day made my stomach somersault. My mind was once again occupied with having my own home with Theo someday, with mini me's and mini hims running around. We would chill by the backyard on hot summer days, Theo with a book on hand, while I busied myself with my embroidery. The children would be chasing each other and having a blast playing with their siblings, occasionally stopping to munch on some scrumptious and freshly baked pies I made and refresh with lemonade. I snapped out of my Riviere as Kyle giggled once more, his attention now back to the television program in front of him, while he fidgeted with his squishy ball. "You'd make a good dad someday, love," I told Theo as I watched him chew on the food I made. He cracked a smile and gazed at me intensely. He simply stared at me, first my eyes, then my lips. "So would you," he replied earnestly. "Do you want to be one day, I mean?" I asked sheepishly. "You know how I felt about babies, love," he replied. His biological father was an abusive alcoholic who never expressed an inch of affection for Theo and his sister Tanya. He once told me that he shied away from any long-term relationship for this very same manner, which is why I feel quite apprehensive about our future. Although I was seeing a future with this man, I was not sure if he echoed my sentiments. I paused momentarily, not knowing what to utter because deep down my heart hurt at the prospect of one day losing him, simply because he was not ready to have a family, and I was. "It has changed though," Theo said softly, "when I met you." My heart skipped a beat and I raised my eyebrows, urging him on. I've never been with anyone who does not feel the need to change me. You know, my past relationships. They got me second guessing on who I was and if I was not enough. But you're so big on believing that I already got it in me. Like one day I will be an excellent father, and with your words, I feel like I might actually be. I ruffled his hair, tearing up a little upon hearing his father. I knew what he meant. I understood his uneasiness. He did not want to end up like his father. He knew what being neglected as a child could do to you. While the notion of doing to his future kids what his father did to him engulfed his mind, and throughout his adulthood, he was now seeing hope. He was seeing hope and a chance for a future for us. "You'd make an excellent dad, Theo," I started. "You're not your father. I've seen you with Kyle. I've seen you with Gab. I mean, your sister herself already said you'd make a great uncle, and someday you'd make a great dad." "You really think so?" "Wholeheartedly believe so," I said, as if in agreement. Kyle also squealed. Living under the same roof as your significant other had its perks, but it most definitely had its con too. Cohabitation meant developing intimacy quicker too, beyond just the sexual aspect of it. Sooner or later you'd be comfortable farting in their presence. Theo loved doing this. Thank heavens, his was normally odorless, otherwise I would really throw a pillow at his face whenever he did it in the living room, as I watched television or scrolled through social media. You would feel comfortable going inside the toilet while the other is peeing, unfazed by the sound or the mere sight of them doing it. As a couple living together, we even developed our own routines and traditions, sooner or later. I normally still cooked, although I appreciated that Theo made an effort to cook some dishes. So far, I had tried teaching him how to make my signature soy-glazed salmon, to no avail. Of course, he ended up overcooking the salmon and the skin got stuck to the pan. "I think I'm good in the dishwashing station instead, babe," he conceded. I laughed at his disheartened face. He evidently tried his best. He always did. Anything to the best of his ability. Theo was not Theo if he was not being overly competitive or simply putting his best foot forward. I squeezed his cheek and placed a soft peck on the side of his mouth. Well, keep trying, hun. He made salmon again later that week and almost perfected it. He truly was husband material. Get you a man who does not shy away from domesticated tasks and housework. He was a total winner in my books. Cuddles were still a pivotal part in our relationship. After all, it was where we started, wasn't it? We would sleep in either one's room. We decided to keep our separate rooms even after getting together as we respected each other's space. While we loved each other to death, we were still our own persons. The cuddles, however, were quintessential. I could not do without them, and to this day, I still ponder over how I survived the majority of my life without it. It would always start like this. He would go out of the shower, squeaky clean and smelling ever so masculine. He would flop down on the bed next to me, and then pull me closer with his strong arms. "You smell good," I would say, inhaling his scent and relishing the fact that I got to call this man mine, and that I spend every waking day next to him. He was the one I fell asleep next to and the one I woke up to. What a sight he was. He would then nuzzle his face into my neck, his 5 o'clock shadow at times poking my sensitive skin, but I loved the feeling of our skin's proximity nevertheless. It was almost primal. The skin-to-skin contact was like a necessity to my being, and I have embraced the roughness of it. He would inhale my scent sharply and wrap his arms even more securely around me. When he felt playful, he would smack my ass and give me a full kiss, with tongue and teeth and all. "Damn," he would say, while stroking my bum. On some nights, his hazel eyes would be full of mischief, and we would resort to a sexcapade all night long. Other nights, we would be content with just cuddling. Every now and then, I would inhale dramatically, wanting to be as close to him as possible, and smelling every fiber of him. I could not get enough of him. I would shudder when he would graze my neck with his lips, ever so lightly, touching and teasing. We would stay like this until our eyelids felt too heavy and we succumbed to the dark night. I would rake my fingernails through his soft hair and he would close his eyes, letting out sounds of approval every now and then. He would intertwine his leg with mine until I was half straddling his thigh, and we would wake the following more like that, so close together that it appears that we were one being. I loved mornings with him. I treasured the routine that we have built together throughout the past few months of our developing relationship. He would usually be the first one out of bed. While he hopped in the shower, I would do some cleaning around the house, although we take turns in doing house chores. Most days, I would come up with a quick breakfast for us like bacons and eggs, while on other days he would surprise me with a poorly executed meal. I would relish it nonetheless, because it came from the heart. Honestly, his food still had plenty of room for improvement, but I saluted his effort because I knew he genuinely wanted to learn how to cook for me. We were living like an old married couple. He would come into the kitchen with his tie undone, and I would pull him close for a kiss and fix his tie for him after. While I cooked, he would wrap his strong muscular arms around me and put his head on my shoulder, drawing in my scent and swaying with me side to side with whatever music was blaring in the background. We would go on our separate ways throughout the day and be slaves to the corporate, but I would endure this because I knew as soon as I got home, I was in for a night with my boyfriend. We took turns cooking. When it was his turn, he usually ordered takeout, and enjoy a full meal together, babbling about how our respective days went and catching up on what we had missed out on. Our nights always ended by unwinding in front of our massive television, him reading a book and me watching whatever I felt like binging on Netflix that night. We were content. It was a blissful relationship indeed. It gave me something to live for. It gave me something to root for in the future. We need not say much on some nights. Some nights, we would just hold each other's hand while we did our own thing. Some nights, we need not utter a word to let the other person know that, hey, I'm here with you and I'm enjoying every second of it. And I sure hope that I could spend an eternity more with him. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.